You have heard the same advice so many times that it has started to sound like wallpaper. Exercise more, sleep earlier, get sunlight, eat better, stress less, stay connected, breathe properly, move your body, do not sit too long, maybe fast once in a while, maybe use heat, maybe use cold, maybe walk in nature, maybe lift something heavy, maybe put the phone down and talk to another human being. Different doctors, different podcasts, different books, different buzzwords, different explanations. But somehow, no matter who is speaking, the advice always circles back to the same small set of behaviors. And if you are paying attention, that should bother you, because if all these experts are talking about different organs, different diseases, different hormones, different symptoms, different age groups, different scientific mechanisms, why do they keep landing on the same instructions? Why does walking help your heart, your blood sugar, your mood, your bones, your sleep, and your brain at the same time? Why does sunlight affect depression, metabolism, hormones, immunity, and energy? Why does loneliness harm the body in ways eerily similar to smoking, inactivity, and chronic stress? Why does fasting overlap with the benefits of exercise? Why does deep sleep improve everything from memory to inflammation to appetite to blood pressure? Why do the answers always converge? Because underneath the hundreds of health recommendations, underneath the thousands of studies, underneath all the branding and all the jargon and all the competing explanations, there is one deeper truth almost nobody says out loud. Your body is fighting a war against a law of physics, and every piece of health advice that actually works is helping you fight that war. The law is the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, disorder, the built-in tendency of every ordered thing in the universe to break down. This is not a tendency, it is not a preference, it is the most fundamental law in physics, the only law that distinguishes past from future, the only law that has never been violated in any experiment ever conducted, the only law that Einstein said would never be overthrown. It is the reason eggs break and never unbreak, the reason heat flows from hot to cold and never reverses, the reason everything in the universe runs down. And now for the part nobody ever says clearly enough. Your body is not exempt from that law. Your body is one of its most astonishing victims, because your body is not just organized, it is staggeringly, almost absurdly, organized. Inside you are 37 trillion cells, each one maintaining a membrane potential of 70 millivolts across a barrier 7 nanometers thick, a voltage gradient per unit distance steeper than a lightning bolt. 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels, maintaining laminar flow through tubes that branch and rejoin without turbulence. 3 billion base pairs of DNA replicating with an error rate of 1 in a billion per base pair per division. A copying fidelity that no human technology approaches. 20,000 different proteins, each folded into a precise three-dimensional configuration that a single misplaced amino acid can destroy. The amount of order in your body is staggering, more order than in any other structure the universe has produced, and the second law says, all of it is under constant pressure to fall apart. Every protein in your body is being pressed toward misfolding, every membrane toward leaking, every chromosome toward replication error, every joint toward wear, every vessel toward stiffness, every signaling system toward noise, every repair system toward delay. The pressure is continuous. It does not pause. It does not negotiate. It does not take weekends off. Aging, at the deepest level, is not one thing going wrong. It is the gradual victory of disorder across many systems at once. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Quietly. Incrementally. Daily. That is why aging can feel invisible while it is happening. It does not arrive like a lightning strike. It arrives like dust. A little less energy, a little less resilience, a little less sleep quality, a little less muscle, a little more inflammation, a little more stiffness, a little slower recovery, a little more noise in the system, a little more damage left unrepaired. The simplest way to understand it is this: your body is always breaking and your body is always rebuilding. Always. Right now, as you listen to this, damage is happening and repair is happening at the same time. You are not a machine that runs smoothly until some future day when you suddenly break. You are a machine in the middle of continuous breakdown and continuous reconstruction. Health is not the absence of damage. Health is the ability to repair damage fast enough. Youth, in large part, is a period when rebuilding outruns breakdown. Decline begins when breakdown starts outrunning rebuilding. That ratio is the real battlefield, and suddenly the advice that sounded random starts making sense. Because every effective health behavior does one of three things: it reduces damage, it increases repair, or it improves the timing and coordination of repair so the body can do more with the same machinery. That is it. That is why the advice converges. Not because wellness culture repeats itself, not because every expert copied the same list, not because health is boring and repetitive, because the body only has so many ways to resist entropy. And the interventions that matter are the ones that support those ways. Movement is the first signal and the one the body responds to most directly. Because your body does not maintain itself automatically, it maintains itself in response to mechanical demand. Bone remodels along lines of mechanical stress. Stress a bone, and the cells deposit mineral where the stress is highest. Remove the stress, and the body disassembles the unstressed bone. The body will not spend energy maintaining order that nothing demands. Maintaining bone mineral density costs energy. Fighting entropy at the skeletal level is an expenditure. The body makes that expenditure only where a signal tells it the expenditure is justified. Remove the signal and the body withdraws the expenditure. The bone thins. Entropy wins at the skeleton. The single cell layer lining every artery requires the sheer stress of flowing blood to produce nitric oxide, the molecule that keeps vessels dilated, anti-inflammatory and antithrombotic. Sit still for 45 minutes and the shear stress drops below the threshold that sustains production. The vessel wall begins accumulating the molecular damage that sustained shear stress was preventing. Muscle maintains itself only on contractile load. Remove the load and the fibers atrophy. Mitochondria within them decline. The metabolic capacity of the tissue decreases. Bone, artery, muscle. One physics. The body maintains order only where it receives a signal that order is needed. Movement is the signal. It tells the bones to stay dense, the arteries to stay open, the muscles to stay functional. The person who stops moving has not contracted a disease. They have withdrawn the maintenance signal from every mechanical system in their body simultaneously. And the second law, which was waiting, begins reclaiming what the body is no longer defending. Sunlight is the timing signal for the entire operation, because fighting entropy requires not only energy and signals, but coordination. The repair systems must run at the right time in the right sequence, targeting the right damage. Your body fights entropy on a schedule. a circadian schedule governed by a master clock in the brain, synchronized by light entering through specialized cells in the retina. Cortisol peaks in the morning to mobilize energy for the day. Melatonin rises at night to initiate repair and immune surveillance. Growth hormone pulses during deep sleep to drive tissue regeneration. DNA repair enzymes peak at specific circadian phases, matching their activity to the phases when the damage they repair is most likely to have accumulated. Morning sunlight at 10,000 to 100,000 lux, the intensity available outdoors, synchronizes this clock. Without the light signal, in a person who stays indoors under artificial light at 300 to 500 lux, the clock drifts. The drift is small on any single day, minutes, not hours, but the drift compounds. Repair cycles miss their timing. The systems that clear waste activate during a sleep phase that does not produce the brain waves required to function at full capacity. Immune surveillance peaks when no pathogen processing is scheduled. DNA repair enzymes activate when the damage they target has not yet accumulated. The entropy fighting machinery is running, but running out of sync. The parts are not coordinated. The maintenance crew arrives after the factory has closed for the night. The repair that would have been efficient at the right time becomes inefficient at the wrong time. Sunlight is not a health tip. It is the timing signal for the entire entropy fighting operation. A body fighting entropy on a synchronized schedule accumulates damage more slowly than a body fighting on a drifting one. Sleep is where most people know the advice and miss the stakes, because sleep is not simply rest. Sleep is the body changing priorities. Day shift handles immediate demands: movement, cognition, immune surveillance, metabolic processing. Night shift handles accumulated damage, protein clearance, DNA repair, memory consolidation, synaptic pruning, immune system recalibration. The two shifts require different autonomic states, different hormonal environments, different brain states. They cannot run simultaneously. Sleep is when the night shift clocks in. The brain's cleaning system expands the spaces between cells by approximately 60% during deep sleep and flushes the metabolic debris that accumulated during waking hours. The molecular waste products of neural activity that are implicated in neurodegenerative disease are cleared during sleep. Only during sleep. The daytime brain cannot run the cleaning system at full capacity because the spaces are compressed during waking consciousness. The cleaning crew requires the brain to be offline. Sleep provides the offline window. Skip the night shift, and the waste accumulates. One night of poor sleep leaves a measurable increase in brain waste the following morning. The increase is small. It reverses with the next adequate night of sleep. But the person who sleeps poorly for years, who consistently shortchanges the night shift by an hour or two, accumulates the waste that adequate sleep would have cleared. Every hour of lost sleep is an hour the entropy-fighting night shift did not operate. The damage is not dramatic on any single night. It is incremental, it is cumulative, and it compounds across years. Fasting is the scheduled maintenance window the body requires to audit its own machinery, because constant fueling creates a specific problem for the entropy fight. When food is always available, the cell's nutrient sensors stay active and the cell prioritizes growth and synthesis over repair. The cellular recycling program that identifies and degrades damaged components is suppressed. Damaged components accumulate. Their failing parts leak reactive oxygen species that damage the structures around them. Misfolded proteins aggregate. The cell is building new structures while the old structures are failing, a factory that never shuts down for maintenance. A fasting window, long enough for the sensors to deactivate and the recycling program to initiate, is the maintenance shutdown. The cell stops building and starts auditing. Damaged components are identified and recycled. Their parts are broken down and used to build new components. Misfolded proteins are tagged and directed for degradation. The cell's machinery is cleaned, inspected, and restored. The second law generates damage continuously. The recycling program clears it periodically. Remove the clearing period, and the damage accumulates faster than baseline repair can address. Social connection. Because the hormonal environment the body fights entropy in determines how fast entropy wins, and loneliness changes that environment in a specific measurable direction. Loneliness increases circulating cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Chronic cortisol elevation accelerates entropy in every system it touches. Cortisol suppresses immune surveillance. Fewer cells patrolling for cancer cells. Fewer cells responding to infections. Disordered cells that the immune system would have cleared survive and proliferate. Cortisol accelerates the binding of glucose to proteins that produces irreversible crosslinks, making arteries stiff, joints rigid, lenses opaque. Ordered protein structures become permanently disordered, the definition of entropy at the molecular level. Cortisol shortens the protective caps on chromosomes that determine how many times a cell can divide before it stops. Each division with shortened caps produces a cell with less capacity to maintain itself. Social connection reduces cortisol through a specific mechanism. The hormone released during physical contact, sustained eye contact, and trusted companionship directly suppresses the stress response. The person who maintains close social connection is not merely emotionally healthier, they are thermodynamically healthier. The rate of disorder accumulation in their immune system, their connective tissue, and their chromosomes is measurably slower than in the person who is isolated. The feeling that loneliness is aging you faster is not a metaphor. It is the body reporting an accurate thermodynamic assessment. Breathing. Because the fuel delivery system for the entire entropy fight operates through a gas exchange mechanism that most people are quietly impairing without knowing it. Your body produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct of every metabolic reaction that fights entropy. This carbon dioxide is not waste. It is the signal that tells hemoglobin to release oxygen at the tissues. Adequate carbon dioxide means hemoglobin releases oxygen efficiently at the cellular level. Insufficient carbon dioxide from chronic overbreathing, from shallow rapid upper chest breathing, driven by low-grade anxiety, shifts the chemistry. Hemoglobin grips its oxygen tighter, delivers less to the cells that need it. A person who chronically overbreathes is delivering less oxygen per breath to the mitochondria that are fighting entropy on their behalf. Less oxygen means less energy production per breath cycle. Each mitochondrion runs at reduced capacity because the substrate it needs is arriving at a lower concentration than proper chemistry would deliver. The entropy fighting machinery runs on a reduced energy supply. The second law does not slow down because the fuel delivery is impaired. The damage rate stays constant. The repair rate drops because repair requires energy, and energy production requires oxygen, and oxygen delivery requires carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide has been blown off by a breathing pattern the person does not know is wrong. Nasal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, adequate carbon dioxide tolerance. These are fuel delivery optimization for the entropy fighting operation running in every cell of your body. Controlled stress, brief cold exposure, heat exposure, intense exercise. These activate a repair mechanism that the baseline entropy fight does not trigger. A small controlled stress produces a repair response disproportionate to the damage the stress caused. This is the biological principle where a low dose of a stressor activates repair pathways that overshoot, leaving the organism in better condition than before the stress. Proteins produced during fever, sauna, and vigorous exercise refold damaged proteins that accumulated under normal operating conditions. The heat did not cause the protein damage. The protein damage was accumulating from the second law's continuous pressure. The heat triggered the repair of pre-existing damage that baseline maintenance was tolerating. Cold exposure activates thermogenesis, surges that prime immune surveillance, and anti-inflammatory responses that address pre-existing inflammation the baseline immune response was tolerating. The cold did not cause the inflammation. The inflammation was there, low-grade, chronic, the product of the second law operating over time. The cold triggered a response that cleared what normal maintenance was living with. A body that never experiences controlled stress never triggers the override. Baseline maintenance runs at its normal capacity. The accumulated backlog grows. The second law wins by increments in the systems the override would have serviced. The cold shower, the sauna, the sprint, the vigorous garden session that leaves you breathing hard. These are override triggers for an entropy fighting system that has a higher gear it will not shift into without a reason. The reason is stress, brief, controlled, recovered from. The recovery is when the repair overshoots. The overshoot is the benefit. 7 interventions, 7 different words, 7 different experts, 7 different explanations, 1 law of physics. The second law of thermodynamics says disorder increases. Your body fights that increase every second it is alive. Every piece of health advice that has ever worked in a controlled study works because it supports that fight. Every piece that does not work because it is irrelevant to that fight. The filter is binary. Does this help the body maintain order against entropy? If yes, it matters. If no, it does not. Next time someone offers you a health recommendation, a supplement, a device, a protocol, a diet, ask one question. Does it reduce damage? Does it increase repair? Does it improve the coordination between the systems that carry out repair? Does it preserve muscle, bone, vascular function, sleep quality, metabolic flexibility, nervous system regulation, immune balance, or mitochondrial efficiency in a way that clearly supports the fight against decline? If the answer is vague, theatrical, or disconnected from the body's real maintenance systems, be cautious, because reality is not obligated to reward clever marketing. The body does not care how exciting the promise sounds. The body cares whether order can still be maintained. The interventions that survive this filter are the ones that work. They are the ones that every longevity study, every centenarian population, every honest clinician converges on. The convergence is not coincidence. The convergence is physics. You have been fighting the second law since the day you were born. You will fight it until the day you stop. The fight cannot be won permanently. The second law does not lose, but it can be fought well. It can be fought with every input the body was designed to receive. Mechanical stress, morning light, deep sleep, periodic fasting, human contact, adequate oxygen, occasional controlled stress. These are not 7 different health tips from 7 different experts. These are 7 ways to support one operation. The operation is maintaining order against thermodynamic pressure. The pressure is permanent. The support is daily. Every morning you stand up, walk outside, feel the sun on your face, breathe through your nose, and sit down with someone you trust. You are winning, not defeating the second law. No one does, but making it earn every inch. And that may be the most honest definition of living well ever spoken.